Hi everyone and welcome to my studio. This is so exciting. My name is Gideon and I'm also known as Gideonslight, and I'm here to be your creatively fit coach. So grab your canvas, grab your paints and your art journal and join me in my studio as I show you how profound it can be in your life if you allow some space to be creative. So join me now as I show you how. Hello everyone and welcome to my studio. My name is Gideon and I'm also known as Gideonslight, and this is week 3 of my 5-week Creative Jumpstart series that I'm presenting to my tribe here on Facebook in the Creative Heart. Unfortunately, this Sunday when we planned to be live, I had visitors that arrived and we spent the day together. Family came to see our new home, and family always comes first. So that is why I couldn't go live yesterday, and anyways it was load shedding, and this is really becoming a bit of a problem, but we are resilient and we overcome this every day with creative thinking and perseverance, and just focusing in on what the goals are and how we can attain them regardless of obstacles and problems in our way. So this is why I'm recording this today. This is now Monday, and I will share this with you guys as soon as I'm done recording, and when our electricity is restored, then I will be able to upload this. So I hope that you guys are getting excited, because now in week 3 we're really starting to see a little bit of a pattern developing, and I wanted to just grab my previous 2 weeks materials and just show you what I've created this far. Let's do a bit of a recap. So this, you guys remember from week 1, we played with black and white and various shades in our color box, and we saw what happens when we mix colors with white and black paint. Let's put this aside, and I did the same with reds and some of the other colors, and I made myself some color swatches on the side. And then I used the palette that I painted on to create the circular abstract artwork that shows you what interesting little marks can become a real feature without really even overthinking it. And that was a lot of fun. And then I went ahead, and the new week's exercises of last week, we played with oranges and with blues, and that is complementary color scheme, and we mixed them together in various quantities, and also playing with gray to see what different tones and shades and tints we can mix by using these complementary colors. And we created little tiles of these colors that will become an interesting page in our art book a little bit later. This was another one that I did, and that was also quite interesting. And then I also just glazed them in the week. So this is a painting palette. Sometimes I use these strips of recycled paper when I've got paint left. I will use my palette knife. Let me just show you my palette knife. I'll use my palette knife and I'll just take the paint and I'll scrape it on there and let it dry just to open it up. And this can become another page in the art book, or it can become a collage element for later. So that was some blues and purples. I did the same with some leftover orange and yellow and white. And I absolutely love how the paint skips over this page and it creates this interesting texture. So you can imagine how this can become an interesting background for a collage exercise later. This is also one of them that I was working with during the week. So I'm throwing nothing away. All of these scraps of paper and leftover paint, it all gets used. I wanted to show you what the orange and blue palette looked like when I created the square shapes. And with square shapes loosely, it's anything with 4 sides to it. It doesn't have to be rectangular or square exactly. It can be wonky and interesting. So I did the same way like I did the circle ones. I used the palette, I drew the shapes on the back of it, cut it out and pasted it on here. But this time I used the paper like this, and you can see this time around how much better it glues down. And then I also just put a layer of acrylic medium over it, bind everything together, and that also strengthens the page. So that is really an interesting development in our creative journey. So for today, what I've got planned for us, I've again prepared 3 sheets of paper, and we are going to be playing with yellows and purples. Again, it's a complementary color scheme. Let me grab my color wheel for you guys just to show you out of interest. So I dial it up to the purple, so violet. The complementary color for violet is yellow, so you'll find that on the opposite side of the spectrum, and that's how you know this is a complementary color scheme. And when you mix these 2 colors together, if you look on your color chart here, then you get a neutral color in between that shows you how you neutralize a color by using its complement. Or you can create interesting, subtle other nuances. So the focus for today and the prompt is to use all of your yellows and violets and to try and see how many different shades you can mix by using your yellows, your violets, a gray and a white. And also the shapes that you will be creating will be anything circular, so that's going to be interesting. So I've got some sponge dabbers here that we're going to use to make some circles with. I also have various brush sizes and whatever other tool you have. I even have a little plastic cup here that I want to dip in the paint and print with it, so that can be quite interesting. So I'm going to dive right into this exercise and get the show started. And I thought I'm going to be using my sponge dabber. I'm just activating it with a bit of water because this is a heavy body paint. And I'm going to start with this beautiful iridescent, what is this called, neon yellow. And I'm just going to fill my little dabber with my paint, and I'm just going to come to my paper and just put some circles on here randomly with this yellow color, and let that be. You have to rinse this off. So we're going to mix some paint now. Let me grab one of my mixing brushes. Always hides from me when I'm looking for it. It's just going to use this one. So I think I'm going to dispense a little bit of white before we mix any colors. Let's just see what they do as they are on their own. And I think I'm going to use a different brush so that I can show you. You can make circles with really almost any brush. So this is an angular brush, and I'm going to use my cad yellow medium, and let's get a different type of circle going here. So put your brush down and just give it a good twirl and see what circular shape you can create. So really, it's not about perfection, it's about experimenting, it's about play, it's about discovery, and that is what these exercises are about. And I'm really hoping that you guys are getting into this playful way of discovering what your art supplies can bring for you, and also as a prompt or a focus to go to your studio and have something to do. Because so many of you guys told me when you joined the group that you want to have a creative practice, but you don't know where to get, where to start, what to do to get going in having a creative practice. And if you guys persist with me, then you guys are going to see how fun this is going to get once we have a little bit of material produced and accumulated. Because once you have some stock material to play with in your art journal or in your studio, you will be amazed at the options that open up for you. And I think sometimes we limit our thinking, we limit our what we have resources around us, and then it's difficult to see what you can do to be creative with that. And sometimes life shows you that you can be very creative with limited things. And this is how I started playing with recycling paper and using more affordable craft materials in order to create pages that is very colorful, but it didn't cost me a lot of money to produce it. The idea is that these pages that you self-create should be more affordable than stuff that you go buy in the store, as nice as it is. But this in the end begins to tell you a story about your own art ethos, your own art language, the colors you love to work with, the colors that you don't really like to work with. You start to figure these things out, and this is a giant step forward in getting to understand your own personal style and what it is that you really love to create, what makes your soul sing. Because it's easy to paint, different pictures from, stuff that you've printed or whatever, and it's really lovely because it does give you brush mileage, but there is a feeling of I'm just reproducing somebody else's art or reproducing another picture or photograph instead of creating something fresh and new. Right, so now that we've got some yellows on there, I'm going to switch to a clean brush because that's just easier as far as this exercise is concerned. Because remember, yellow and violet are complementary colors. So if they get mixed before you intend to mix them, it can create mud and it can be disappointing. So let's try this beautiful new violet of mine. That is really pretty. And I'm also just using my sponge dabber to just get in there. Let's start to fill this page with interesting circles. Now, something I want you to try is to not just put everything inside the page. Look what happens when you go off the page. It starts to suggest to the viewer that there's a continuation. It doesn't just end in the middle of the page, and that's something that you can take to your canvases and to your artworks as well, especially if you like to do something more graphic or modern, abstract. I think it's important to sort of familiarize yourself with the idea of playing off your canvas so that everything isn't contained and put in prison inside of your paper. I'm going to jump to this dark Sazine violet. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh, that's nice and blue. I love that. I'm going to rinse this out. I really want to encourage you guys as you watch this series to get into your studios, get out your art supplies and join me in creating these very simple exercises and just learn to have fun and explore and see what happens when you try them out for yourself. Because by the end of this 5-week Jumpstart series, in week number 5, I'm going to show you how all of these pages are bound together in an art book. And then we're going to start playing with some collage by using all of these materials that we've been creating over the last 4 weeks. And even then going beyond that, it will be interesting to see how I introduce you to a weekly prompt going forward that might just spark your creative catalyst and get you going, so that there's always a fresh inspiration, focus and idea that you can go to in case you feel stumped or have no idea what to do for the week. You can just use that prompt. But I do encourage you to take a photograph and share it with us on the group. I don't know why you guys are so shy. I'm beginning to think I'm only talking to myself. But thank you to everyone that's liking it, that's sharing it, that's watching the videos, that's encouraging me. Please drop me a comment below this video and tell me what you're thinking of the current series and where you are at in your creative journey. I would love to hear. And I also want to encourage you guys, if you have any questions, please just drop it as a comment to this video. I would love to answer your questions and see how I can guide and support you on your creative journey. So I've just switched to a little round brush here, and I'm going to play with my grey and some cad yellow. So I'm mixing the cad yellow and the grey together and seeing what different values and tones I can create by mixing these two together. So I've brought some grey to the yellow and I've brought some yellow to the grey, and it's 2 different shades that's happening here. And let's just go ahead and I'm going to place it on the bottom of this cup or on the lid. Let's try the lid. I'm going to paint it on the lid. Like so. This is like a yellow, green, gold, yellow kind of color. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna just stamp with it. There we go, it's so cute. Okay, so you can see that you can use almost anything around you to be creative with and to create some patterns and some shades. And the idea is, as you mix new colors and you imprint new round shapes on this page, you are busy making a beautiful, interesting background page that will go into your art book, and at the same time you are learning how to mix color, how to mix tones. So next time you're doing a painting and you realize that, you know, I need a different tone of this color, you will know what to do. You will have a better memory of what happened when you mixed cad yellow and grey together, and that might just be the shade that you need in order to make your project a success. So at the same time of mixing color and applying it in a circular way, I'm using a design principle here of repetition and of rhythm and of movement that will cohesively bring everything together here. Okay, I'm going to continue to use this little cup. That's quite a lot of fun to just clean it off with my little rag. Oh, don't press too hard. Got quite brittle. Let's go ahead and let's mix our Dioxazine Violet with a bit of white and see how that changes the color, how it lightens it. so make it more bright, so it looks more like a purple. It's a different purple to what we have here. It's a bit lighter. Let's add a bit more white, taking it to a deep lavender. Yes, that looks different. Now let's add a bit of grey there as well, just on the side, so it tones it down quite a bit. So that's a different color. And let's use this cap again. Let's see how long it will last me. And let's go around these neon yellow dots. Put this circle around it. That's fun. And you can see nothing is about perfectionism. It's all just about experimenting, playing, having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know about you. I hope you are having a lot of fun. The idea of your creative practice should be to have a lot of fun. So if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. Okay, so let me do this last one. There we go. I think we caught them all. Alrighty. So you guys get the gist for this week's prompt in creating pages for your art book. We're using all of our yellows, so go to your supplies and see how many yellows you've got. You might be surprised. I only used 2 of them to simplify the exercise, but the idea is to pull out all your yellows and see what they look like and what happens when you mix them together. Pull out all your violets, darks as in violet, purple, lavender, anything related to purple, and add this to the page, to the collection. And then also mix yourself a grey and have some white, so that, because especially purple can be quite dark, so sometimes you want to just give it a bit of a tint so that you can see the pigment a little bit better. And fill this page completely with bigger circles, smaller circles, and see what you can create with using various brush sizes. Let's quickly do another one here. Let's use this violet because I haven't mixed the color together yet. Let's do that before I go. So I'm going to use the cad yellow and the violet together, and that created the most beautiful rusty golden brown. That's interesting. Now let's see how we can create a circle shape using this big flat brush. So you can see the circles are a bit bigger. So when people say you mix complementary colors together and then you create mud, what they really also forget to say is you can create the most beautiful neutral colors. I mean, look at this copper that's actually produced by mixing this particular violet and cad yellow together. Let's see what happens when we add a bit of white to that. Brighten it up even more. Now it starts to look like a deep yellow ochre. You see? So you don't even have to go to the store to buy, you know, this tan or ochre color. You can just mix it yourself by, you know, using the violet and the cad yellow. And another thing that you start to realize as you use these more neutral or natural tones with your colors is because they're all related. It's just these two colors with either white or gray. they keep speaking to each other. So there's a harmony that is taking place on your page that you wouldn't normally have if you added a different color that's not quite happy to be in that family. So sometimes you can add another color and you go, oh my word, now something's not working because the spectrum of that color that you've added wasn't harmonious. So it might be a bit harder to get to a harmonious color. I just added a bit of gray to that. And it makes it a little bit more of a taupey color. That's fun. And I quite like these jagged circles. That's not perfect because again it adds variety to the type of circular shapes that we are seeing. What would happen if I add a little bit more of this violet in here? It's starting to almost look like this paper. Let's add a bit of white to that. That's an interesting mauvey color. Let's put that down here. Ooh. Interesting. And these colors are colors that you can't buy. I mean, it's literally colors you have to mix. But you won't know what is possible if you never go ahead and try to mix a color at random first, you know, just to sort of see what would happen. And if you then find that you love this color, then you know how to recreate it because you've only used a particular shade of violet and a particular shade of yellow, and you can recreate it by continually mixing these two together until you get to the right mixture. So it's not such a big mystery. So if you really want to catalog this whole exercise, on the back of it you're welcome to write all of your formulas down and make a little paint swatch of each, or inside one of these circles write what you've mixed to create that color. And then when you go to your canvas and you want to paint something and you want a color like this, then you know how to mix it and how to get to that particular shade. So that's definitely helpful at the same time, because I think it can be quite boring to just sit in your studio and paint swatches, although that's also a good exercise to do. But you know, if you're like me, you want to have fun while you're doing something. You don't just want to, you know, it mustn't feel like a chore. It must feel like you're being creative and you're creating something. That's awesome. Let's switch to a different brush and see what will happen if we add even more darks, as in purple, and we add a bit of this lemon yellow into the mix. Because the lemon yellow is quite acidic in its color. So I've got the darks as in purple and the neon yellow here. I'm just going to activate my brush. And I've got a new little brush here. Ooh. That's an interesting violet. Let's add some grey to that, just to see what will happen. I like the marks that this brush is leaving. And it's a hardware kind of brush, it's not a fine art brush. I'm getting different textures and effects by using a brush that's not even necessarily intended for creating artwork. Loving it. So you get the gist of it. You're going to continue until you're happy that you filled this page with various shades and tones of yellow, violet, grey and white. It cannot be any simpler than that. So I'm quite happy with where this is. I wanted to just show you again what I do with the palettes when I'm done with an exercise. So any paint that remains on my page, I just give it a good interesting smear out, and just for the sake of this palette I'm going to just add a little bit more yellow here. Oops, that's a lot, but it's okay. It's not going to be a waste. So I wanted to demonstrate what I sometimes do with my palettes. So for example, I'm done with my painting session and this is the paint that I have left over. I will take my palette knife and just create interesting shapes and marks with the remainder paint. Not worry too much about creating anything in particular, just give it an interesting smear and let it dry. And when it's dry, that's what I'm going to use to create my next abstract little piece. And I wanted to share with you the idea for this week's abstract little piece is that you create either crosses or diamond shapes with your abstract piece, and do it on your palette, draw it on the back of it with a Koki or a marker, excuse me, cut it out. Again, we want large shapes, medium shapes, smaller shapes, and then stick it to your third page using your glue stick and just put these shapes together in an interesting way that's beautiful for you. And we'll see how these random smears of paint turns out to be a little artwork that we will celebrate. So that is our quest for the week that I wanted to share with you. Let me have a sip of coffee. I hope you guys are really enjoying this and that you're learning something through exploring and playing in your studios with this creative challenge. So there's just a few things I wanted to share with you guys that will help you in your creative practice as you go forward. Because a lot of people ask me, where do you get your inspiration from? How is it possible that you just forever come up with new ideas? I really firstly believe the more you play, the more you inspire yourself. I don't believe that there's a limit to inspiration. When we arrive at a stumbling block or a roadblock or creative block, whatever you want to call it, I really think it is because we are starting to put too much pressure on ourselves to produce something, and or we have outgrown what we already know. You are ready to learn something new. So one of the most important attributes that I think you should have or develop as an artist is curiosity. Because if you're curious, you will always be interested to learn something new and to explore outside of what you're comfortable with. I think it's very easy for us as human beings to fall in a comfort zone and to stick to formulas and subject matters that we are confident with, but in the back of our mind we can start to feel this gnawing of being bored, and that's for me is a dangerous point, because it's so easy then to abandon your creative practice and all of the health benefits and mental health benefits that come with it, simply because we're bored and we're not stimulated anymore. So first and foremost, I think it's important every now and again when you're done with a project to clear your space, to do a good space clearing, pack your art supplies away, clean your area, get rid of any rubbish and clutter in your environment that is no longer necessary, store it, or make a art wrap-up journal That's something that I will share with you later on. It is where you literally use everything that you've created in a series and you bind them together in a folder, and that's also a nice way to archive some of your things. So later when you're working on another project, you can always go back and draw from that library of archived material. So too much clutter and too much projects at the same time that's in your immediate creative space can prevent you from moving forward. Then I want you to become clear about your self-sabotage and limiting beliefs that is preventing you from following through and being persistent in your creative practice. See what events happen continuously that is preventing you from getting into it. An example for me right now would be like load shedding, family coming to visit when you had other plans. So then it's easy to go into your next week and saying, oh no, I already, lost out on a week. What's the point of continuing? That is self-sabotaging. So identify those thoughts, because the minute you think that, that's when you should say to yourself, no, I'm not going to abandon my creative practice. I had a lovely time with my family. Load shedding is temporary. Tomorrow or today, I'm going to see where I've got 5 minutes. I think as Westerners especially, we think of catching up. You behind. You're never behind. It's impossible to be behind. You are just where you are. But when we entertain a sabotaging thought like, I'm falling behind, what's the point of continuing, is the next thought. That is limiting. That's when you say, no, I'm just where I am. So if I start or continue today, I'm just continuing where I left off 3 days ago or a week ago or a month ago. And that's okay, because that's when you are ready to step forward. But there's no catching up. So please take that pressure out of your mind and off of yourself. There is no falling behind. I want you to take note of your favorite colors. See what happens when you mix some colors in this exercise and you go, oh my word, I really like this color. I should work with it more. Those are the colors that you should really pay attention about, and take care on find out exactly how you mix them. It was 2 parts of yellow and 1 part of violet and a dash of white. Then in the future that favorite color of yours, how did you mix it? And you can maybe mix yourself a bigger batch in a sealable container that you don't have to mix it every time. And that way you can begin to work with some of those colors that you really enjoy, that you don't necessarily get in a tube at the art supply store. I want to encourage you to open a Pinterest account if you don't already have one, and create yourself some boards with artists' artwork that inspire you, even photographs that inspire you, specifically to go to when you need inspiration and fresh ideas of where to begin a project. Pinterest is an invaluable tool to spark inspiration and to get very good color stories even together, that you can literally sample down to what the paint swatch should look like in order to attain that feeling of, yes, I love these colors and I know they work together. I want to translate that to a project. So use Pinterest. It's an invaluable tool. Begin to follow artists on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and learn from each other. Don't just steal with your eyes, engage in a conversation with them, leave a comment, like their work, share their work. In that way we support each other in our community, because it can be very hard as an artist and even as a creative coach to find a voice where people hear you, where they benefit from what you are offering. And that like, comment and share can transform an artist's world into more abundance and prosperity. So let's not be jealous of each other. Let's not be intimidated by each other. Let's rather support each other. If you want to grow as an artist, then help other artists grow, and automatically you will also grow. So that is a helpful tip I can give you. And then let those artists' passion and ideas and methods of working inspire you. We all, in a way, copy each other. We take something that inspired us, we go try it, and then it becomes our own and it evolves within us. So by the time we reproduce it, it looks completely different to what the original inspiration looked like, and you've sort of made it your own. It's transformed through you, and in that way you've expanded your techniques and your abilities and your understanding of your own art ethos. So in a respectful way, I always say, don't just copy and reproduce, but rather, be inspired and let it transform you. And then when it comes out of you, let it be your unique version of it that is identifiable as yours. So that is one of the things I want to leave you guys with. So I really hope that these questions, thoughts, and ideas inspire you to get going in your creative practice, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys are going to create with this week's prompt. So get your yellows, get your violets, and I'm excited to see what's going to be next. I'll speak to you guys again this Sunday at 3 o'clock. We will have our fourth class in this creative jumpstart. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Bye bye for now.